Every word a potential weapon. Elizabeth's world operated on entirely different principles. Texture, sound, the warmth of sunlight through a window. His phone vibrated insistently, then again. By the third time, Elizabeth's smile had dimmed slightly. You should answer that. That evening, alone in his hotel suite, Hyun stared at the video feed from Seoul. Jinwoo's face filled the screen, jaw tight with barely contained frustration as he detailed the turf incursion. The Busan crew pushing into their territory, 2 of their collection points burned. We need authorization for the response, Jinwoo said, and something in his tone suggested this wasn't just about the turf war anymore. Hyun issued the orders with mechanical precision, surgical, devastating, final. The words came easily, practiced over years of similar conversations. After he disconnected, he sat in the darkness, Elizabeth's laughter still echoing in his mind. The phantom sensation of her fingers accidentally brushing his hand when she'd reached for her coffee. The dissonance was becoming unbearable. The beach was deserted when they arrived, the last of the sunset bleeding into darkness across the water. Dong-hyun had chosen the hour carefully, late enough that tourists had retreated to their hotels, early enough that the tide was still going out. Elizabeth stood beside him at the edge of the parking lot, her face turned toward the sound of waves, and smiled. Can you hear it? She asked. The rhythm changes every 7 waves. Listen. He did. At first it was just noise, the endless crash and hiss of water against sand. But as he focused, he began to discern what she meant. A pattern in the chaos, swells building and falling in a cycle he'd never noticed before. There, she said, counting under her breath. That one was bigger. Feel it. She took his hand and led him down to the sand. When she stopped to remove her shoes, he hesitated, then did the same. The sand was cool beneath his feet, still warm in places where the sun had baked it during the day. They walked along the shore, and Elizabeth taught him to listen. The cry of a night bird he couldn't name, the different sounds shells made as waves dragged them across the beach, the way wind changed pitch when it moved through beach grass versus open air. This is how I see, she explained. Everything has a voice if you pay attention. Dong-hyun found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in years, maybe ever. There were no phones here, no orders, no violence waiting in the wings. Just the waves and the darkness and Elizabeth's hand in his, her presence somehow making the world feel less cruel. They stopped walking, and she turned to face him. May I? She asked, raising her hand toward his face. He nodded, then remembered. Yes. Her fingers found his jaw first, tracing the line of it with a touch so gentle it made something in his chest ache. She mapped his features carefully. His cheekbones, his nose, the small scar near his eyebrow from a fight when he was 17. Her fingertips lingered at his temples, smoothing over the tension there. You feel sad, she said softly, like you're carrying something heavy. The words cut through every defense he'd built. For a moment, Dong-hyun stood on the edge of confession, the truth pressing against his throat, demanding release. He could tell her everything. He could stop lying. Instead, he kissed her. He poured everything real into it. Every genuine feeling he tried to deny, every moment of peace she'd given him, every desperate wish that he could be someone worthy of her touch. The lies remained unspoken, but the kiss was true. The warehouse smelled of rust and diesel fuel, the kind of scent that clung to your clothes for days. Dong-hyun stood beside Jinwoo, watching 2 of their men check the intercepted shipment, 30 kilos that should have arrived in San Diego but had been rerouted through less official channels. The bound man in the corner had stopped pleading an hour ago, now just watching them with the hollow eyes of someone who understood exactly how this would end. That's when his phone rang. Elizabeth's name lit up the screen. Jinwoo's eyes flicked to him, one eyebrow raised. Dong-hyun stepped away, pressing the phone to his ear as he moved toward the far wall, his entire body shifting, shoulders dropping, voice softening into something gentler, warmer. Hey you, he said, and hated how easily Marcus slipped over him like a second skin. I was thinking, Elizabeth's voice was bright, excited. Maybe this weekend you could meet Sarah and Tom? We could do dinner at that Italian place you like. I want the people I care about to know each other. Behind him, Jin-woo barked something in Korean. The bound man made a sound, not quite a whimper, not quite a prayer. That sounds perfect, Dong-hyun heard himself say, turning his back to the scene, as if that made it disappear. I'd love to meet them. You mean it? Because I know it's fast. But Marcus, I really think we have something real here. Something that could be… She paused, laughed a little. God, I sound ridiculous. Something that could be a future, you know? The word future landed in his chest like a stone. Behind him, Jin-woo's voice had gone quiet, which was somehow worse than the yelling. Dong-hyun closed his eyes. You don't sound ridiculous, he said softly. I want that too. When he hung up, Jin-woo was waiting, arms crossed. You're getting sloppy, he said in Korean. Dong-hyun didn't answer. He couldn't explain that sloppy didn't begin to cover it, that he'd spent the last 3 nights researching stem cell treatments and experimental surgeries. Doctors in Switzerland and Japan who specialized in reversing optic nerve damage. That he'd already reached out to 2 of them, using cash he should have reported to the organization. He was trying to buy redemption with blood money, trying to build a real life on a foundation of lies. And the worst part was knowing it had already gone too far to stop. The message arrived on a Tuesday afternoon while Elizabeth was restocking shelves. Her phone buzzed, and she saw Marcus's name, except it wasn't from the number she'd been texting for weeks. Liz, I know I have no right to reach out after disappearing like I did. What I did was cowardly and you deserved better. My new relationship didn't work out, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about the mistakes I made. Could we meet? Just to talk. I owe you a real apology. Marcus. She stared at the screen, her stomach nodding. The words made no sense. They'd been together constantly. He hadn't disappeared anywhere. Unless this was some kind of joke or… Elizabeth Scranton's fingers traced the edge of her phone for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Her voice assistant repeating the same cold words. Sorry, I can't make it. We should stop talking. Nothing else. No explanation, no apology, no second chance from Marcus. She sat frozen on the MacArthur Park bench, the Los Angeles sunset painting colors across a world she couldn't see, while couples walked past with their laughter cutting through her heart like glass. If you think she deserves better than this, hit the like button right now. Let's show her she's not alone. Across the city, Dong-hyun Park stepped out of a warehouse where 2 men lay dead. His designer suit speckled with blood he'd need to burn before sunrise. His cold, handsome face revealed nothing as his lieutenant asked where he was going. But inside, he felt suffocated by the empire of violence his father built and he now commanded. He needed air. He needed to feel human again, even if just for an hour. Subscribe now because what happens when these 2 worlds collide will leave you speechless. The night brought them together in that quiet park. Elizabeth turned at the sound of approaching footsteps, her unseeing eyes bright with desperate hope. Marcus, she whispered, you came. Dong-hyun Park, a man who destroyed lives for a living, looked down at this fragile woman offering him trust like a gift. In that split second, he saw something he thought he'd lost forever. An escape route, a chance to be someone else, a moment of mercy in his merciless world. He took her hand. I'm here, he said softly, stepping into a stolen identity and sealing both their fates with the most dangerous lie he'd ever told. The footsteps approached from behind, steady and deliberate against the gravel path. Elizabeth didn't turn around. She never did. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, the afternoon sun warming her face, and smiled. You're late today, Marcus. Dong-hyun froze mid-step. The words hung in the air between them like a question he hadn't been asked. He should correct her. He should apologize for the intrusion and walk away. But something in the way she said the name, familiar, affectionate, expecting, made him hesitate. Sorry, he heard himself say. The word came out quieter than intended. She patted the bench beside her. Come sit. I was starting to think you'd forgotten about me. He sat down slowly, his heart hammering against his ribs. This close, he could smell her perfume, something floral and light. She wore sunglasses despite the clouds gathering overhead, and her cane rested against the bench between them. Her fingers found it instinctively, a small adjustment that spoke of long habit. "Rough day?" she asked. The question was so simple, so ordinary, that something inside him cracked. You could say that. Want to talk about it? No one had asked him that in years. In his world, people wanted answers, strategies, solutions. They wanted the CEO, the visionary, the man who never faltered. They didn't want to hear about the weight that pressed down on his chest at 3 in the morning, or the meetings that felt like performances, or the loneliness that followed him home every night. "Not really," he said. "Tell me about your day instead." So she did. She talked about her music students, about the girl who finally mastered a difficult piece, about her dream of opening her own school someday. She talked about feeling isolated sometimes, how the world seemed designed for people who could see it. Her voice carried a gentle sadness, but also hope, something Dong Hyun had almost forgotten existed. He found himself responding with truths wrapped in deception. Yes, he felt lonely too. Yes, sometimes success felt hollow. Yes, he understood what it meant to smile for others while feeling empty inside. When she asked if he'd meet her again tomorrow, he knew he should say no. He knew this was reckless, dangerous, wrong. "Same time?" he asked instead. Her smile was radiant. "I'll be here." Elizabeth's hand trembled slightly as she rang the doorbell of the brownstone in Georgetown. Dong Hyun standing beside her with the stillness of deep water. She'd been dreading this moment all week. Not because she doubted him, but because Patricia Scranton had a gift for seeing through people that had nothing to do with eyes. The door opened to the scent of rosemary and roasted chicken. "There's my girl," Patricia said, her voice warm as August honey, pulling Elizabeth into an embrace that smelled of Chanel No. 5 and chalk, dust that would never quite wash away. 30 years of teaching had left its marks. "Mom, this is Marcus," Elizabeth said, and even as the lie left her lips, she felt the weight of it settling between her shoulders. Dong Hyun extended his hand. "Mrs. Scranton, Elizabeth speaks of you often." Patricia took his hand, and Elizabeth felt the assessment happening in that moment of contact. The retired principal's instinct that had identified troubled students, lying parents, dangerous men masquerading as concerned citizens. "Well," Patricia said after a pause that lasted half a heartbeat too long, "come in. Dinner's almost ready." The evening unfolded like a play where everyone knew their lines except the audience. Dong Hyun was charming, asking about Patricia's garden, her years in education, her thoughts on the neighborhood's changes. But Elizabeth could feel the tension emanating from her foster mother like heat from pavement after rain. Then it happened. Patricia reached for the water pitcher, misjudged the distance. The glass tipped, began its fall. Dong Hyun's hand shot out. Not the fumbling grab of a civilian, but the precise intercept of someone trained to move faster than thought. The glass never touched the ground. "Quick reflexes," Patricia observed, her tone carefully neutral. "Rock climbing," Dong Hyun said smoothly. "You develop fast hands or you fall." But Elizabeth heard what he didn't say in the half-second pause before his answer. And she knew Patricia heard it too. Later, in the kitchen under the pretense of making coffee, Patricia's hand found Elizabeth's wrist. "That man is not who he says he is." "Mom!" That evening, she showed him the message, laughing nervously at the absurdity. "Look at this. The real Marcus wants to apologize for ghosting me. Isn't that weird? Like he doesn't even know we've been seeing each other." Dong Hyun felt the blood drain from his face. He forced himself to smile, to manufacture confusion that matched hers. "That's really strange. Maybe his account got hacked." But inside, panic crystallized into clarity. The real Marcus existed out there, living his life, unaware that someone had stolen his identity for love. Eventually, inevitably, the truth would surface. Elizabeth would discover everything: the catfishing, the months of deception, the man behind the screen who looked nothing like the photographs. That night, Dong Hyun couldn't sleep. He lay in his narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, and made his decision. He'd been researching for months, following forums and medical journals with desperate intensity. South Korea had pioneered techniques that went beyond conventional approaches, procedures that could reshape not just features but entire facial structures. Revolutionary, experimental, and extraordinarily expensive. He liquidated everything. His savings, his mother's life insurance, the small inheritance from his grandmother. He took loans he had no business taking, leveraged credit cards, borrowed from acquaintances with vague explanations. The private clinic in Seoul required $500,000 upfront. He arranged it anonymously through intermediaries, booked the flights, secured the recovery apartment. When he told Elizabeth he wanted to give her something, his hands trembled. "I've been saving up," he said. Another lie scaffolding toward an impossible truth. "For a surgery that could help with my condition. Something that might actually work." She looked at him with those eyes that had seen past his face from the beginning, and he wondered if she could see through this deception too. If love was truly blind, or if she'd simply chosen not to look. The private investigator's report landed on Patricia Scranton's desk on a Tuesday afternoon, and she read it 3 times before reaching for her phone. No Marcus Chen existed in any credible database, no social security number, no credit history, no digital footprint beyond the superficial LinkedIn profile she'd already scrutinized. The photographs showed him entering Elizabeth's building at odd hours, always alone, always watching the street before disappearing inside. Patricia's hands trembled slightly as she dialed her daughter's number, but it went straight to voicemail. She tried again, and again. Across the Pacific, Kim Sang-woo studied the intelligence report with cold satisfaction. So the Iron Dragon had finally shown weakness. An American girl, no family connections, no protection. The photographs captured Dong-hyun looking at her the way men looked at vulnerabilities. Kim called his most reliable operative. "Make it clean," he said in Korean. "I want him to understand the cost of distraction." 2 men boarded a flight to Los Angeles that evening, carrying tourist visas and very specific instructions. Jin-woo had watched his boss deteriorate over months, the legendary focus fracturing into something he barely recognized. When Dong-hyun left the warehouse early again, Jin-woo made a decision that violated every protocol of their organization. He followed, keeping 3 cars back, his jaw tight with the knowledge that he was either saving his boss or betraying him. The car stopped outside Elizabeth's apartment. Jin-woo parked down the street, checking his weapon out of habit, and settled in to wait for the right moment to intervene. Marcus Reeves read Elizabeth's last text message for the 10th time, trying to decode its strange formality. Something felt wrong, the phrasing too careful, the timing too perfect. Their relationship had always been comfortable, easy, but lately her messages carried an edge of something he couldn't name. He grabbed his jacket and keys. Whatever was happening, they needed to talk face to face. He'd surprise her with her favorite Thai takeout, and they'd figure this out like they always did. As the sun set over Los Angeles, 4 separate vehicles converged on Elizabeth Street, each carrying someone who believed they alone understood the truth. The knock came first, urgent, familiar. "Elizabeth, open the door." Marcus's voice, the one she'd memorized from coffee shops and tentative kisses. Elizabeth's hand hovered over the deadbolt, her heart hammering against her ribs. Something felt wrong. The urgency was too sharp, too raw. Before she could decide, glass shattered somewhere behind her, the kitchen window. Heavy boots hit her floor. Voices, low and threatening, speaking rapid Korean. Not Marcus. Not anyone she knew. "Bathroom," she whispered to herself, muscle memory guiding her backward through the familiar geography of her apartment. She locked herself inside just as her front door crashed open. Then the world exploded into chaos. Gunshots cracked the air. Bodies slammed against walls hard enough to shake picture frames loose. She pressed herself into the corner between the toilet and the tub, hands clamped over her ears, but she couldn't block out the sounds. Fists connecting with flesh, furniture splintering, men grunting and cursing in 2 languages. And then she heard him, Marcus, except he wasn't speaking English anymore. Korean poured from his mouth in rapid-fire commands, each syllable edged with an authority that made her blood run cold. This wasn't her gentle Marcus who stumbled over conversational phrases. This was someone else entirely, someone who made grown men obey without question. More gunshots. A scream cut short, The wet, heavy sound of someone hitting the floor. Elizabeth's breath came in shallow gasps. She tasted copper, though she hadn't bitten her tongue. The metallic scent of blood seeped under the bathroom door. Then silence fell like a curtain. Footsteps approached slowly, deliberately. Elizabeth. That voice again, Marcus's voice, but gentler now. Speaking English. It's safe. You can come out. She fumbled with the lock, hands shaking so badly it took 3 tries. The door opened, and a hand caught hers, warm, sticky with blood. It's okay. It's me. She emerged into her living room, and the air told her everything her eyes couldn't. The sharp smell of gunpowder, the iron weight of blood, the chemical scent of sweat and fear. Elizabeth. Another voice, the real Marcus, hysterical and terrified. What the hell is happening? Who are these people? Why are you? Shut up, Dong-hyun said quietly, and Elizabeth understood. The man holding her hand, the man who'd cooked her breakfast and learned her apartment by heart. He'd stolen more than Marcus's identity. He'd stolen her truth. The protection detail was discreet but thorough, 3 rotating operatives who blended into the neighborhood like delivery drivers and dog walkers. Dong-hyun had made the arrangements before turning himself in to his own organization's tribunal. His crimes against the operation were too significant to ignore. Compromised identity, emotional involvement, security breaches born from attachment. He wrote the letter at dawn, his real handwriting angular and unfamiliar after months of Marcus's careful script. My name is Lee Dong-hyun. I am a criminal. Everything I told you about my past was a lie, but everything I felt was real. The words looked stark on paper, inadequate. He told her about the surgery already paid for, the best ophthalmologist in Seoul, no obligations attached. You deserve to see the world again. You deserve the choice. You deserve to be free from what I am. Patricia found Elizabeth 3 days later, sitting in the apartment surrounded by unopened mail and cold coffee. Not crying, beyond crying, but not broken either. There was something steel-bright in her stillness. Seoul, Elizabeth said finally. I'm going to Seoul. Because he arranged it? Because I want to see. Her fingers traced the letter's edges. Everything, everyone, the truth. 3 months later, the bandages came off in a hospital room overlooking the Han River. The world bloomed into focus. Too bright, too sharp, overwhelming. The Seoul skyline cut geometric patterns against the sky. Then Patricia's hand, pressing something into hers. A photograph. The face was harder than she'd imagined, scarred along the jawline. Eyes that had witnessed things Marcus's voice had never suggested. But the loneliness was there too, unmistakable now that she could see it. MacArthur Park smelled different than she remembered, or perhaps she'd never really known it at all. Dong-hyun stood by the fountain, waiting for the consequences he'd accepted as necessary. He didn't hear her approach until she spoke. The sunset is beautiful. Her voice was steadier than he expected. I'm seeing it for the first time. He turned slowly, and she saw him, truly saw him. The fear came first, sharp and rational. The anger followed. But beneath both, something else. Recognition of a loneliness that had matched her own. A truth more real than any of his lies. The silence stretched between them, full of damage too deep for simple forgiveness, trust too shattered for easy repair. Then Elizabeth extended her hand. Not acceptance, not absolution, just possibility, fragile and uncertain, built on ruins but honest at last. They both saw exactly who stood before them. Not Marcus and Elizabeth, not the people they'd pretended to be, but 2 damaged souls who'd found something genuine in the rubble of deception. His fingers brushed hers, hesitant as a first touch. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more, and see you in the next video.